has been a roller coaster week, isn't it?
Yeah.
For Malaysians, it's like, wow, the drama doesn't seem to end unfolding, and it's still unfolding at the palace at the moment. A lot of disappointment, a lot of feelings of betrayal, isn't it? A lot of sadness for those of us who fought for the Malaysian hope. So I went to bed last night and I was telling the Lord, I said, how am I going to teach this class this morning? Because the class is all about your control of kingdoms. And I was very, very troubled, especially when Tommy Thomas resigned as AG. Anyway, I woke up with a lot of peace, because the Lord spoke to me. I woke up with a very peace of mind that this lesson is very relevant to our situation today in Malaysia. And it seems like the Lord has set the environment this way for us to study Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 4. Because Daniel chapter 2 and chapter 4 are basically about king and kingdoms. Right. So the book of Daniel. Who wrote the book of Daniel? Daniel. How many chapters are there in the book of Daniel? My people easily forget. 12. Okay, 12 in, as far as our Bible is concerned. But I believe it was Linda who asked me that question, that there are other chapters in Daniel that are not. So the Hebrew text does not include these 3 chapters. Okay, the Greek text has these 3 chapters. That's why the Bible scholars decided that they are not going to put in these 3 chapters because they want to go as accurately to the original as possible. But the Roman Catholic Bible follows the Latin Vulgate, which follows the Greek. So they included it in. Right? If you want, you can go and research it, but the 3 chapters are basically not so relevant to the whole picture of the book of Daniel. The first chapter is the first one is basically the prayer of the 3 boys in the fire, and then the other 2 is about Daniel judging situations, corrupt situations like now, where Daniel made good judgment. It's more about him as a person, not so much about the nation and all that. Okay, so to answer the question, which Linda is not here, is that that's because of the fact. It's not because English Bible took out, right? It was never there in the first place. So if you ever speak to any of our Roman Catholic brothers and sisters, you can always explain to them that English Bible was never there in the first place. Okay, because the Greek, they added in maybe because of historical evidence or something like that. But our English Bibles always want to follow as far back as the original. And how do we prove that the Old Testament and all these writings are true? Any evidence of it now? Any evidence of the manuscripts? The Dead Sea Scrolls, that's right. 1947, one shepherd taking care of his sheep went into the caves in the north of Dead Sea and found 800 manuscripts. 800 manuscripts dating 300 BC. That means quite accurate. Quite accurate. And these were still in perfect condition because in those countries, in that region, it's very dry. It's very dry, isn't it? So they could preserve it. And these people were preserving it because the Romans were trying to destroy it. So they found 800 manuscripts. And you'll be happy to know that Daniel is one of them. The book of Daniel was found in the Qumran cave. That's where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Out of 800 manuscripts, they found 2 in cave 1, 5 in cave 4, 1 in cave 5. Wow. Not complete, but excerpts of the book of Daniel. Accurately like what we are studying today. So it does prove that, hey, look, this is original. These books are not just made up stories. Okay? So it gives us a little bit of assurance that what we are studying goes back many, many years, but the proof is there. So now you understand why we only have 12 chapters of Daniel, not 14 or 15 chapters of Daniel. So in the book of Daniel, now we're going into Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2 is a very common chapter for Seventh-day Adventists especially. Before you are baptized, you have to pass the test. Right? In other words, you have to know what is Daniel chapter 2 and the prophetic message in Daniel chapter 2. So we have Team Alex. Right? We have Team Alex to share with us. But what I like to do is everybody get a Bible or share the Bible, because I want to do close reading on Daniel chapter 2 and chapter 4. Okay, most of us know Daniel chapter 2, but very few people know about chapter 4, isn't it? So, but I want to do close reading because understand the fact that interpretation of prophecy. Right, last week Pastor talked about historicis. That means we look at situation, oh, there was an earthquake. That's prophetic realization of the prophecy. What we're going to do in this class is prophetic interpretation by exegesis. You know what I mean? That means we will look into the Bible and see how we can interpret the prophetic messages from the Bible itself. And if we can't see it in this chapter, we might see it in another chapter. So, like I said, do away with all your preconceived ideas. So, Daniel chapter 2, who had the dream?
King Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay, King Nebuchadnezzar. Giving a history of King Nebuchadnezzar. He's a king of Babylon. That was the greatest nation at that time. And Judah, Israel nation, was captured by him. Am I right? Daniel was one of the captives together with his 3 friends. He was serving the king in the court. Which year was it that King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream? In the second year? All your versions have second year? In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had many dreams. Does your version say dreams? Dreams, not dream. Dreams. In the second year of his reign. In the second of his reign, where would Daniel and his friends be? They would be in the palace under study, because it takes 3 years. Chapter 1 tells us that it takes 3 years for them to train before they can enter into king's service. So in the second year, they probably be internship. Or I don't know, maybe they're going to be promoted because of their wisdom. It doesn't say. Okay, it doesn't say, but definitely they are in the courts. And what happened to him?
He had a dream, and he wanted his sorcerer and all his wise men at that time to interpret his dream without telling them his dream.
Shall we read it then? So we read it so that we can understand the picture. Let's read from 2 verse 1. We will read a few chapters and we will stop there.
In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams that troubled him, and sleep deserted him. So the king gave orders to summon the diviners, priests, mediums, sorcerers, and Chaldeans to tell the king his dream.
Okay, why did the king summon all these people? Magician, astrologer, sorcerer, and wise men. The wise men, and yes, and because he was an idol worshipper, right, he was into all this, so naturally, he would summon all these people to see him. Verse 3.
He said to them, I have had a dream and am anxious to understand it. The Chaldeans spoke to the king. Aramaic begins here.
Okay, so you notice that even in our Bible says that Aramaic begins here, verse 4. Okay, why Aramaic begins there? Yes, because it was the king's language. You don't expect the king to speak in Hebrew. So that's why I said this book is very interesting, because it's also partly in Aramaic for the purpose of the secular king, which is King Nebuchadnezzar.
May the king live forever. Tell your servant the dream, and we will give the interpretation.
Very naturally, we will say, Master or Sir, Tuanku, tell me the dream so I can interpret it for you. But what did the king do?
The king replied to the Chaldeans, my word is final. If you don't tell me the dream and its interpretation, you will be torn limb from limb, and your house will be made a garbage dump.
That is a very serious consequence for not being able to interpret the dream. And the thing is it fair to tell them that? Do you think the king remembered his dream? You don't think so?
He does.
He does? But why didn't he want to tell the wise men? Yes, right. Whether because anybody can interpret, correct or not? Anybody can say, oh, this. But if only the divine or the special power can tell him what his dream is and interpret it. So it was indeed a test, and definitely the punishment would be very, very severe, because the person will be dismembered and the household will be reduced to rubble, means will be burned. But if you disclose the dream,
But if you have made the dream and its interpretation known to me, you will receive a reward and great honor from me. So make the dream and its interpretation known to me. They answered the second time, may the king tell the dream to his servant, and we will give the interpretation.
Right, so the wise men were so desperate, they kept asking the king, please tell, please tell. Right, and what did the king say?
The king replied, I know for certain you are trying to gain some time, because you see that my word is final. If you don't tell me the dream, there is one decree for you. You have conspired to tell me something false or fraudulent until the situation changes. So tell me the dreams, and I will know you can give me its interpretation.
Do you think the king trusts his people?
No. Trust issue completely. The king has trust issues.
So the king has trust issues with his people. That's why he didn't want to reveal the dream. He insisted, look, I'm not going to tell you. You better tell me what the dream is all about. And verse 10.
The Chaldeans answered the king, no one on earth can make known what the king requests. Consequently, no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked anything like this of any divine priest, medium, or Chaldeans.
Okay, Chaldeans are wise men, huh? Chaldeans, the group of people. Next.
What the king is asking is so difficult that no one can make it known to him except the gods, whose dwelling is not with mortals.
Right, so they also acknowledge that only the gods can tell the dream, correct or not? I can't tell you what you dreamt last night. You can't tell me what I dreamt last night. I can't even tell what I dreamt last night. So only gods can do that. And then verse 12.
Because of this, the king became violently angry and gave order to destroy all the wise men of Babylon.
Wow, that was a very serious decree because just because of his dream and his issue, he wanted to destroy all of Babylon, all the wise men of Babylon. So
the decree was issued that the wise men were being executed, and they searched for Daniel and his friend to execute them.
right, so here it was, Daniel and his friends who were part of the wise men team were also being sought to be executed. So there was crisis in that nation at that moment.
Then Daniel responded with tact and discretion to Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, who has gone out to execute the wise men of Babylon. He asked Arioch, the king's officer, why is the decree from the king so harsh? Then Arioch explained the situation to Daniel. So Daniel went and asked the king to give him some time, so that he could give the king the interpretation.
Do you think Daniel knew that he could interpret the dream?
Yes.
Yes? Was Daniel confident at that time?
Yes.
No.
No?
Yes.
Yet he asked for time. He's buying time. Okay, he's buying time. So whether he knew or he didn't, he was buying time. Then this might give you an idea of the fact that Daniel was gifted in interpretation. Yet, look what he asked his friends to do.
Then Daniel went to his house and told his friend Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah about the matter, urging them to ask the God of heaven for mercy concerning this mystery. So Daniel and his friend would not be killed with the rest of the Babylon's wise men. The mystery was then revealed to Daniel in a vision at night. And Daniel praised the God of heaven and declared, may the name of God be praised forever and ever, for wisdom and power belongs to him.
He asked them to pray for mercy, verse 18, from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that his friends would not be destroyed along with the rest of the wise men. So did he know that he could interpret or not? He probably had the gift, but he needed the help of God. So is it important to pray when we have urgent issues? Together. Right? This is a national issue. This is a national issue. Because all the wise men were going to be executed. So after the wise men, probably will come to other groups of people. Is it important for us to get together to pray for national issues? It is. It is. Right? Don't let anybody deceive you by saying, oh, we cannot get involved in politics.
Amen.
This is not this because this is not politics. This is the future of the nation. So I'm so happy. I think Uncle Frank sent the message as well that a lot of churches were praying for our nation this whole week. Lots and lots of churches were sending out messages because we need to do that just as what Daniel and his friends did, to intercede when there's a crisis in the country. It's not that we're going to be executed, but definitely our future is going to be affected. So here it is that they started to pray, and then God answered them. And God gave him the interpretation, and he praised the Lord. He praised the Lord for the wisdom, the power. He praised the Lord in verse 21 of being able to change times and seasons, and deposing some kings and establishing some. He gave wisdom to the wise. He imparts knowledge to those. He really acknowledged that God is the Almighty. In verse 22, he reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light resides on him. So let's go down to verse 24.
Therefore, Daniel went to Ariel, whom the king had assigned to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He came and said to him, "Don't kill the wise men of Babylon. Bring me before the king, and I'll give him the interpretation." Then Ariel quickly brought Daniel before the king and said to him, "I found a man among the Judean exiles who can let the king know the interpretation." The king said in reply to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me the dream I had and its interpretation?" Daniel answered the king, "No wise man, medium, diviner, priest, or astrologer is able to make known to the king the mystery he asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mystery, and he has let King Nebuchadnezzar know what will happen in the last days."
Okay, so here is Daniel going to the king. The king is troubled, and he asked to go into the king, but yet he says, no man can reveal except what? The God in heaven who reveals mysteries. So the minute Daniel goes in, he already acknowledges the God in heaven. Did Nebuchadnezzar know about this God in heaven? Chapter 2? Does he know? Not yet. Don't see any evidence of him knowing about God in heaven, because his God was all the other gods. Then we go to the dream itself. The other thing is, verse 28, right? Only the God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in time to come. So the dream was for who? The dream was specifically personal to Nebuchadnezzar, because it says here, there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the time to come. Is the dream for us?
In the last days.
The meaning of the dream.
We'll see in a while, okay? Right, but here Daniel says it's for the king. Daniel says the dream is for the king, to tell the king what's going to happen. Alright, let's go to 29.
Your Majesty, while you were in your bed, thoughts came to your mind about what will happen in the future. The revealer of mysteries will let you know what will happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have more wisdom than anyone living, but in order that the interpretation might be made known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind.
Again, it says, it's not because I am wise, but because so that the king may understand the interpretation and comprehend the thoughts of your mind. So 2 times already, it says that the dream is for who? For Nebuchadnezzar. That's all. Right? That's all. It's for Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, 31.
31. Your Majesty, as you were watching, suddenly a colossal statue appeared. That statue, tall and dazzling, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was terrifying. The head of the statue was pure gold, its chest and arms were silver, its stomach and thigh were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were partly iron and partly fire clay. As you were watching, a stone broke out without a hand touching it, struck the statue on its feet of iron and fire clay, and crushed them. Then the iron, the fire clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were shattered and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away, and not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth.
Okay, so how would you explain the dream? So the goal is where?
The
The
head.
gold is the
head.
head.
Yes.
Alright? And then after that, next,
Silver.
silver. And then next,
The bronze.
Bronze.
And then iron.
and then,
Iron.
And then clay. and then after that, what happens?
There's a stone up came and struck the feet.
The feet, and after that,
The whole thing shattered.
the whole statue shattered, and after that,
And then that stone grew and became, bigger.
and filled the whole earth. Right? So this is basically the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. Was it scary? He apparently he was very, very disturbed by the dream. It must have been a very dramatic scene that was portrayed to him of this statue and what happened to this statue. So let us now go to the interpretation, which is starting from 37.
Okay, Your Majesty, you are King of Kings. The God of heavens has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and glory. Wherever people live, or wild animals or birds of the sky, He has handed them over to you and made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold.
Okay? You are the head of gold. So who is the head of gold?
Babylon.
King Nebuchadnezzar. Right? And his kingdom, Babylon. You are the head of gold. That's all. Alright? You are the head of gold. After that,
After you, there will arise another kingdom inferior to yours, and then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which will rule the whole earth.
okay, so after that there will be inferior kingdom, which is silver. Silver is inferior to gold. And then after that there will be bronze. After that, there will be a fourth kingdom of
Iron.
iron. So the fourth kingdom of iron is here, represented by the legs. Then after that, what happens? Just like,
And like iron that smashes, it will crush and smash all the others.
okay,
You saw the feet and toes, partly of a potter's fired clay and partly of iron. It will be a divided kingdom, though some of the strength of iron will be in it. You saw the iron mixed with clay, and that the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly fired clay. Part of the kingdom will be strong and part will be brittle. You saw the iron mixed with clay. The people will mix with one another but will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with fired clay.
okay, there is more description about this bottom foot. The others is quite clear, isn't it? The second, there's third, and then there's a fourth, and the fourth is going to break and crush the others. Then we go into this one. Right? We go into the one that has the feet and toes, partly of what? Clay and partly of iron. So this will be a divided. What does your version say?
Divided kingdom.
Kingdom. Anybody else? Divided.
Divided kingdom.
Is it all divided kingdom? All divided kingdom? Yeah. Okay. So this will be a divided kingdom. It's not divided kingdoms. It will be a divided kingdom. When last week Pastor was talking about kingdoms and nations. Kingdom means what? Nation is ethnic. Kingdom is country. So it is a divided kingdom. Some of the strength of the iron will be in it, and some you will mix with clay. What is the meaning of that mixture?
Some are iron is powerful and clay is not.
Right. So it will show that some in the kingdom will be strong, and some in the kingdom will be weak, fragile. Then after that, it says that what? 43.
You saw the iron mixed with clay. The peoples will mix with one another, but will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with fire clay.
So what does it mean? There will be no?
There will be separation.
No unity.
Yes. No unity. The iron and clay, two things. One is representing strong and weak. One is representing mixture. It will not mix. It will not mix. So we understand a little bit about this toes. Okay, we understand that it is a kingdom. It is a kingdom. Then what happens in 44?
In the days of those kings, the God of the heavens will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, and this kingdom will not be left to another people. It will crush all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, but will itself endure forever. You saw a stone break off from the mountain without a hand touching it. and it crushed the iron, bronze, fire, silver, and gold. The great God has told the king what will happen in the future. The dream is certain and its interpretation reliable.
The great God has made known to the king what will occur in the future. Third time is mentioned in this book that the dream is for who? For the king. Alright, up to this chapter 2, we only know that the statue, the head of gold is Babylon. It's actually not even Babylon, it's the king himself. You are the statue, he's the king himself. So that's why 5 chapters talk about King Nebuchadnezzar and so detailed into the dream, so detailed into the interpretation. The dream is for King Nebuchadnezzar. That's why there's no other interpretation except for the gold. Correct? Except for the gold. Of course, historically, we will know what is the others, but at this moment, in chapter 2, exegetically, there is no mention of what are the other nations or kingdoms. Right? What happens after King learn about the interpretation?
46. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell face down, worshipped Daniel, and gave orders to present an offering and incense to him. The king said to Daniel, "Your God is indeed God of gods, Lord of kings, and a revealer of mysteries, since you were able to reveal this mystery." Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many generous gifts. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and chief governor over all the wise men of Babylon. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to manage the province of Babylon, but Daniel remained at the king's court.
Right, so Daniel was very smart. Okay, the king elevated him. He pulled along his 3 guys. But the 3 guys were sent out to the province. That's why the Daniel was not in chapter 3. Some of you asked about how come Daniel was not in the fire, because he wasn't there, he was in the palace. Right, but the 3 guys were in another the place of Dura. Okay, so here we have is that the king was very happy, but here the king is still saying, "Your God. Your God is powerful. Your God." Okay, so here is the first instance of God appearing to King Nebuchadnezzar. Why would God want to show, notice of this king? Why?
I think he's telling us that even though you are such a powerful king, your kingdom can be also be vanished.
Alright, okay, there's a lesson. Yes. Why pay attention to King Nebuchadnezzar?
I think God in the beginning said that he is God's servant.
Right.
He used him as a servant.
Yes. Right. Just like the Syrians, God tried to convert them and God converted them through who? Jonah. But later they went against God after 100 years. So because he's a servant, and he was using Nebuchadnezzar to do what? To punish his people. Punish his people. So he has special attention to this guy. Perhaps if he could convert him, maybe his people will have less problems. See, in every place that has God's people, God is there. Even in Malaysia. And God controls the nation because of his people. Because are there Israelites there? Definitely. There's quite a lot of them, including Daniel. Quite a lot of them in the future he will capture. So God has to deal with the king to assure the king, look, my people are there. Alright, so yeah, you better, I want to try to deal with you. I tried it. At this point in time, Nebuchadnezzar has not converted yet. Okay, has not converted. Then chapter 3, we now understand why in chapter 3, we have done that 2 weeks ago, why Nebuchadnezzar decided to do a big statue 90 feet tall. Maybe he's not of his dream. I can go and do the statue.
So he won't be destroyed.
So he won't be destroyed. Yes. So he made this big statue that he doesn't want to be destroyed. So let's jump to chapter 4, which is another dream. And a lot of times, in Bible study, we don't read chapter 4. But chapter 4 is so related to chapter 2. It's a parallel. So let's go to chapter 4. Because in chapter 4, the king again, what happened to him? Okay, this is done, ready? The king again had a dream. He likes to dream. Or God likes to come to him in a dream. Let's go to chapter 4. And let's start off with Timmy.
So we are at chapter 4 now. The dream was actually King Nebuchadnezzar again who had that dream. But this time, the dream, we probably have to use a bit of imagination for now. If you go to verse 10, Daniel chapter 4, verse 10, in the visions of my head, as I was lying in bed, I saw this. So there was a tree in the middle of the earth. Okay, you can imagine a tree in the middle of the earth, and it's great, and its height was great. The tree grew large and strong, and the top reached to the sky. So you can imagine a big tree, and the tree reaches all the way to the sky. And it was visible to the ends of the earth, which means everywhere you are on earth, you can actually see this tree. Its leaves were beautiful, its fruit was abundant, and on it was food for all. The wild animals found shelter under it. The birds of the air lived in its branches, and every creature was fed from it. So you can imagine the large scale of this tree, that it carries food, that every creature on earth was fed for it. So you can imagine how big this tree is. And that was the first part of the dream. And if I go to verse 13, then the king saw the vision in his mind, an observer, a holy one coming down from heaven. So holy one in this instance is actually an angel. He called out loudly, cut down the tree and chop off its branches. So imagine you chop off the tree, strip off its leaves and scatter its roots. Let the animals flee from under it and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump with its roots in the ground and with a band of iron and bronze around it. In the tender grass of the field, let him be drenched with dew from the sky and share the plants of the earth with the animals. Let his mind be changed from that of a man, and let him be given the mind of an animal for 7 periods of time.
Acknowledge that after 7 years of eating grass, or 7 periods of eating grass, he acknowledges that I bless the Most High and praise and honor him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation. Chapter 2 gives us an idea. What was that? Which part of the statue tells us that his dominion is an everlasting dominion? Chapter 2. The stone that struck the statue and then grew and filled the whole earth. So we are starting to have an idea already what is happening. That the rock that struck the statue was God himself, and he's going to establish a kingdom. Physical or spiritual? We'll figure it out. So was Nebuchadnezzar converted?
Yes.
After 7 years, God restored him. After 7 years, God blessed him even more. So does God have control over kings and kingdoms or not?
Yes.
I was very comforted by this this verse, especially now. I was very comforted. Okay, this was when they were declaring the pronouncement for Nebuchadnezzar. And he says that, so that the living may know that the Most High is sovereign over the kingdoms of men, and gives them to anyone he wishes. And gives them to anyone he wishes, and sets over them the lowliest of men. That means even the humblest one would. So who is going to decide Malaysia's fate?
God.
What happens that it looks like it's not going to be the way that most of us wish it to be? It doesn't seem to go that way. What happened?
We can intercede.
Have faith.
Have faith? What else?
Pray and intercede.
Pray.
You can still pray, intercede. You can still pray, intercede. You can still argue with God. You can still present your case to God. Alright, why the righteous should rule. Why the people's decisions should be respected. But God tells you, I give the kingdom to the man that I choose. 3 times in that chapter, it was mentioned. So unfortunately, if you read Daniel and you miss it out, I tell you, it's very sad. Because people look at the book of Daniel as a prophetic message, but it's more than that. It's much more. It gives us hope, isn't it, today? Especially, that's why I say the whole setting of Malaysia is preparing this lesson. And I praised the Lord this morning for it when I woke up and I had peace of mind. And whatever happens when you turn on the news tonight, be rest assured that the Lord has promised that He is the one that gives. He is the one that will remove. That there is a reason for everything to happen. And because we are the people of God, just like the people of God were there, He will deal with the king. He will deal with the government. So let's continue to have faith. Let's continue to intercede. We need to do that. Right? Continue to intercede. And let's continue to serve God and be faithful to Him.
Even if the result is not to our liking, I believe that God has His reason to choose the person to rule the Malaysia. He has His reason, we do not.
But the good news is that He is triumphant. So you see people jumping, jumping frog now, a lot, jump here, jump there. If you want to choose to jump, you jump to the winning side, alright? Alright, not the political side, is that? But I tell you, spiritually, for your own life, if you want to choose to jump, where should you jump? You should jump to the side of the Lord Almighty.
Amen.
Who controls even kings